Imagine sinking into a world where the rules of life rewrite themselves, where creatures glow with homemade light, where pressure could crush a submarine, but jelly-like animals float through it as if weightless, where giants drift beside creatures smaller than grains of sand, and where entire ecosystems run on volcanic chemicals instead of sunlight. Down in the deep sea, evolution didn't just take a detour, it built an entirely separate planet beneath our own. And the strangest part? Everything living there adapted in ways so bizarre, so ingenious, and so downright otherworldly that it makes you wonder whether the real aliens were hiding under the waves the whole time. In this video, we're diving into all of it. The ancient split that created two evolutionary worlds, the glowing languages of darkness, the pressure-proof bodies, the slow-motion lifestyles, the odd romances, and how even human activity is now echoing through a place once thought untouchable. By the end, you'll understand why the deep sea is not just another ecosystem. It's Earth's most mysterious parallel universe. Let's descend. Imagine sinking downward through the ocean, watching sunlight fade, as if someone keeps dimming a cosmic switch. 10 meters down, the world turns a soft blue. 50 meters, and colors begin to disappear like they realize they forgot their lines in a play. At 200 meters, the ocean closes around you in a navy blue hush. And as you keep sinking, the last scraps of light vanish entirely, like a magician swallowing their final trick. This is the moment you cross into a realm where evolution plays by a completely different rulebook. One written in darkness, pressure, cold, and patience. Out here, nature didn't just think outside the box, it threw the box into the abyss and said, "Good luck." The deep sea is an environment so extreme that it almost feels like the planet's own secret laboratory, tucked away where no sunlight has intruded for millions of years. Life in this part of the ocean evolves in ways that seem almost alien. And honestly, sometimes it feels like these creatures are trying to prank biologists. Things glow that shouldn't glow. Things grow teeth where teeth feel optional. And some animals look like they were designed by a committee that could not agree on anything except that the result should be unsettling. But behind every weird trait is a story of survival, shaped by a pressure-filled environment that has been sculpting life in its own image since the early days of Earth's oceans. Pressure is the first factor that slams into you, figuratively for us, literally for anything living down there. For every 10 meters you descend, another layer of pressure stacks on top of you, as though the weight of an increasingly disappointed ocean is asking why you came unprepared. By the time you reach the deepest trenches, the pressure is so immense that if you brought a beach ball down, it would implode faster than your motivation on a Monday morning. Down in these depths, only organisms that have evolved to handle such crushing weight can survive. And that means evolution has pushed life into some wonderfully odd directions. Soft bodies, flexible tissues, and almost jelly-like structures aren't accidents. They're insurance policies. Let's not forget temperature. The deep sea is cold enough to make a penguin consider a sweater. With temperatures hovering just above freezing, every creature down here has to operate on an energy budget so strict it would make a financial consultant proud. This kind of cold slows life to a crawl. Evolution in this realm isn't about racing ahead. It's about efficient survival, the kind that demands creativity when resources are scarce and conditions rarely change. Down here, slow and steady doesn't just win the race, it's the only contestant that remembered to register. And then there's the darkness. Full, absolute, unwavering darkness. You cannot see your hand in front of your face, mostly because if you're a deep-sea creature, you may not even have hands. In this pitch-black world, Vision becomes a luxury, and light becomes a superpower. The absence of sunlight strips away one of the most important energy sources for life at the surface. Plants can't survive here. Photosynthesis can't happen. The entire food web has to be built on something else entirely. And when the usual rules of nature disappear, evolution responds by inventing new ones that feel like they came from a late-night brainstorming session where someone suggested, what if we just made things glow? Floating through this quiet abyss, you can feel how the environment transforms everything. The vastness of the deep sea also makes it one of the most isolated habitats on Earth. Picture a world so enormous, yet so empty, that each creature is like a lone traveler in a cosmic subway system, never entirely sure if anyone else is riding with them. When conditions are this harsh and this stable over millions of years, species diverge in isolation, picking evolutionary paths that feel like alternate timelines for life itself. The deep sea isn't chaotic, it's deeply consistent. Very few disturbances reach these depths, which means the creatures living here evolve slowly, but with remarkable specialization. The environment isn't just a backdrop, it's a sculptor, carving life into shapes suited perfectly for these conditions and nowhere else. Every fin, every tooth, every glowing lure, every strange gelatinous appendage is a response to the deep sea's strict expectations. Nature leaves no room for negotiation. If a trait doesn't help you survive this darkness, pressure, cold, and scarcity, it doesn't last long. And yet, what blows our minds most is that despite all odds, life thrives here, not merely surviving, but inventing solutions no human engineer would dare submit. The deep sea is an evolutionary pressure cooker, simmering life over millions of years, until it produces creatures so unique that each one feels like its own universe of adaptations. This first descent is only an introduction to the deep sea's bizarre creativity. As we continue exploring, each chapter will peel back another layer of this underwater world, one where survival rewrites the rules, and evolution doesn't just think differently, it thinks deeply. If you could hop into a time machine and dial it back a few billion years, preferably before dinosaurs, before trees, before anything with a face, you'd find an ocean that looked familiar on the surface, but operated like a completely different planet underneath. This was a world where life was just getting its act together, experimenting with shapes, strategies, and biochemistry, like a wildly enthusiastic intern who's been told they can just try things. But as promising as early life was, it didn't spread evenly. Instead, it quietly divided itself into two realms: the shallow, sunlit waters and the cavernous deep. These two zones would become evolutionary neighborhoods, so distinct that even today, their residents might as well be from opposite ends of the universe. The earliest oceans were warm, mineral-rich, and full of chemical ingredients that made ancient Earth look like it was trying to brew its own biology-flavored soup. In the shallows, sunlight poured in, creating the perfect stage for organisms that could capture that energy and run with it. Life here had a front-row seat to the star of the show, sunlight. And when early microbes learned how to turn that light into chemical energy, things took off with the kind of success usually reserved for blockbuster movies. Suddenly, the shallow waters were bustling with microscopic pioneers, busily photosynthesizing, dividing, and making oxygen like tiny overachievers. Meanwhile, the deep ocean remained a quiet observer. No sunlight, no photosynthesis, no bustling biological metropolis. Instead, it was a world fueled by chemistry rather than sunshine. Hydrothermal vents spewed minerals and gases into the darkness, creating little pockets of chemical abundance. These ancient vents provided the energy that early, deep-dwelling microbes needed. They weren't interested in the shallow water drama. They were more like introverts who found a cozy, warm corner and decided this was their life now. Over time, the organisms living near these vents evolved along a completely different pathway from their sun-seeking cousins above. What makes this split so fascinating is how early and how decisively it happened. Most animals today share a common ancestor from long before there were shells, bones, or anything remotely squishy. But even at that time, life had already begun sorting itself into what would become separate evolutionary fates. Imagine two siblings growing up in the same house. Only one moves to a beach town, and the other chooses a remote cabin in the mountains. A few million years later, they're still related, but their lifestyles and survival strategies have nothing in common. In the shallow waters, sunlight encouraged complexity. Plants and algae spread, feeding simple animals that fed slightly less simple animals. That fed animals with teeth sharp enough to make other animals rethink their life decisions. Chemical energy cascaded down the food chain in a vibrant, constantly shifting web. Evolution here was all about adapting to competition, getting faster, bigger, sharper, brighter, or sneakier. Shallow water became nature's crowded marketplace, where innovation spread quickly and survival often depended on how well you could keep up with the neighbors. But in the deep, things followed a slower, quieter rhythm. The environment was so stable over such long periods that evolution in the abyss prioritized endurance rather than speed. Early deep-sea life developed strategies tailored to scarcity and consistency. They relied on chemical reactions, drifting nourishment, and the occasional geological event that stirred up their neighborhoods. Their challenges weren't fast predators or sudden environmental changes. Their challenges were timeless, finding energy, conserving it, and passing genes to the next generation without a whole lot of external fanfare. In the deep, the evolutionary motto wasn't innovate or die. It was closer to stay efficient or good luck. The split between these two worlds grew deeper, literally and figuratively, as Earth changed. When oxygen began filling the atmosphere thanks to those ambitious, shallow water microbes, it changed surface habitats dramatically. For many organisms, oxygen was a blessing. For others, it was about as welcome as a smoke alarm going off during a nap. Some forms of ancient life retreated to oxygen-poor environments, including the deep sea, committing fully to their chemically driven lifestyles, while the surface world embraced this shiny new gas. Geology reinforced the divide. Ocean circulation patterns emerged, sculpting currents that acted almost like invisible borders. The continental shelves provided stable, shallow habitats, while the continental slopes dropped off into steep, dark expanses that most life simply never crossed. The great underwater cliffs became natural separators between the energetic shallows and the patient deep. Over hundreds of millions of years, the differences accumulated. Species adapted so specifically to their zones that crossing from one to the other became almost impossible. By the time animals grew complex bodies, nervous systems, and symmetry, features we tend to appreciate in modern creatures, the deep and the shallow had already established evolutionary cultures that rarely mingled. Even today, with all our submersibles and sonar, the deep still holds organisms that look nothing like their surface relatives. Not because the deep is primitive, but because it branched off early and kept innovating on its own terms. So as we leave this ancient ocean and return to the modern world, we carry with us a clearer understanding the deep sea isn't just a darker version of the ocean we see at the beach. It's an evolutionary neighbor that moved out ages ago, furnished its abyssal apartment, and spent billions of years developing a lifestyle so distinct that when we finally visit, everything inside feels wonderfully, profoundly different. Picture yourself drifting through water so dark that your brain starts making up shapes just to stay entertained. Down here, darkness isn't a temporary condition, it's the default setting. Sunlight stops miles above, leaving the deep sea wrapped in a kind of permanent midnight that never resets. And in this endless darkness, life has done something astonishing. It has evolved into two camps that solve the darkness problem in completely different ways. Some creatures decided to become experts at seeing the faintest traces of light. Others decided, quite boldly, to just make the light themselves. It's the deep sea's weird version of, if you can't find it, build it. Except with glowing organs and centuries of evolutionary engineering. Let's start with eyesight. In the deep, the available light isn't zero, it's just absurdly, insultingly low. Imagine trying to navigate a haunted house armed with nothing but a dying firefly. That's the kind of lighting situation deep-sea animals deal with. But instead of giving up, evolution began fine-tuning eyes into something remarkable. Some fish developed eyes so large they looked like they were borrowed from creatures several sizes bigger. The size isn't just for dramatic effect. These oversized eyes can gather and magnify tiny flecks of light, whether from drifting bioluminescent plankton or the faintest shimmer of something moving nearby. Even more impressive are creatures whose eyes evolved specialized shapes. Instead of the forward-facing eyes we mammals insist on using, many deep-sea species developed tubular eyes that stick upward like twin telescopes. These aren't fashion statements. They're superb at catching whatever stray photons happen to fall from the upper ocean. For these animals, seeing what's happening above them is often a matter of survival. When you live in the deep, anything that produces even a whisper of light could be food, a predator, or a potential mate. Think of these upward-gazing eyes as early warning systems, with a hint of hope attached. Then there are animals that went in the opposite direction entirely. They didn't make their eyes bigger, they made them smaller. Or in some cases, they removed them altogether, presumably because darkness made the whole concept feel optional. Some deep-sea worms and crustaceans have eyes so reduced they're practically just decorative dots. Others ignore vision altogether, focusing instead on touch, smell, or vibrations. Evolution, at its core, is thrifty. If an organism doesn't need eyes, eyes disappear. It's the biological equivalent of unsubscribing from a service you never use. But the real showstopper in the deep sea isn't the seeing, it's the glowing. Bioluminescence is one of the great evolutionary success stories of the abyss. While shallow water creatures rely mostly on sunlight or colourful markings, deep-sea organisms needed a different strategy. They couldn't paint themselves in bright stripes or shimmer in pretty reds and blues. There's no one down here to admire your flashy outfit. Instead, they evolved the ability to generate light from chemical reactions inside their bodies. Think of it as nature inventing tiny biological lanterns long before humans figured out fire. What's wild is how many different lineages independently evolved this glowing trick. Fish do it, squid do it, shrimp do it, jellyfish do it with an enthusiasm that borders on theatrical. Even bacteria get in on the action, glowing with such dedication that some animals borrow them, housing them like tiny living light bulbs. It's not one evolutionary invention, it's dozens. Apparently, when you live in darkness long enough, lighting up becomes a universal idea. And once organisms had the ability to glow, evolution turned it into a full toolkit. Some species produce light to lure prey closer, wielding bioluminescence like a fishing rod with a neon worm attached. Others use light as camouflage in a strange reversal of logic. By glowing on their undersides, they match the faint light from above and become invisible from below. It's the ocean's version of counterintuitive fashion. You stand out less by glowing more. Then there are the deep-sea romantics. With potential mates spread far and wide, glowing patterns became a long-distance communication system. One species flashes a specific rhythm, another shimmers with a unique hue, and suddenly the darkness becomes a ballroom of tiny, flickering signals. It's like Morse code, except instead of sending messages like SOS, the messages translate loosely to, "I am the same species, please don't eat me before we get to know each other." But here's where things get truly fascinating. Vision and bioluminescence didn't evolve hand in hand, they split. While some species developed incredible eyes to track the briefest flickers, others focused entirely on producing the flickers themselves. A few elite members of the Deep Sea Club can do both beautifully, but most organisms specialize. Some are watchers, some are glow makers. It's an evolutionary divide that shaped entire ecosystems. Glowing organisms inadvertently became beacons that visual hunters rely on. Those hunters then shaped the evolution of even more elaborate glowing tricks, some to attract, some to hide, some to confuse. The deep sea became a silent battlefield of light, where brightness could mean survival or doom depending on who was watching. In this world of eternal night, darkness isn't emptiness, it's the canvas. And deep-sea creatures, through millions of years of adaptation, have learned how to work with that canvas, either by mastering ways to sense the faintest signs of life, or by painting directly onto the darkness using light of their own creation. The deep sea may lack sunlight, but it's far from dim. In fact, it might be one of the most visually dynamic ecosystems on the planet. You just need the right kind of eyes, or the right kind of glow, to see it. Picture descending into the ocean with a pressure gauge in your hand. At first, the numbers tick upward politely, nothing dramatic. But the deeper you sink, the more that gauge behaves like it's trying to warn you about something horrible. A few hundred meters in, and the pressure is already strong enough to make your ears feel like they're being squeezed by invisible thumbs. Go down a few thousand meters, and the force isn't just uncomfortable, it's monstrous. The deep sea begins applying pressure with the enthusiasm of a hydraulic press that just discovered it loves its job. And yet, life survives here, completely unfazed. While we humans rely on steel, glass, and distant optimism to explore these depths, deep-sea creatures wander around with bodies made of delicate tissues, soft membranes, and jelly-like structures that somehow resist being crushed flat. It's one of evolution's most impressive engineering achievements, and it all starts with understanding just how ludicrous the pressure really is. For every 10 meters you descend, the ocean adds another layer of force equal to the pressure at sea level. That means the deepest trenches of the ocean aren't just a bit intense. They're subject to over 1,000 times the pressure we experience right now. It's the equivalent of trying to function with a blue whale perched on every square centimeter of your body. If you or I were dropped into these depths, we wouldn't explode dramatically, the way movies sometimes like to pretend. Instead, we'd compress like a marshmallow in a vacuum machine, an outcome that is neither dignified nor survivable. But deep-sea creatures? They carry on with their day as though the laws of physics politely excuse them. One of evolution's favorite tricks for dealing with high pressure is eliminating anything rigid. Bones, shells, and gas-filled cavities are the kinds of structures that buckle easily under extreme force. Many deep-sea animals simply sidestep that problem by being extraordinarily squishy. Imagine a world dominated by living water balloons, gelatinous bodies that yield under pressure instead of resisting it. This softness isn't a compromise, it's a superpower. Jellyfish, ctenophores, and many deep-sea fish rely on bodies that distribute incoming pressure evenly, preventing catastrophic collapses. Instead of acting like fragile soda cans, they act more like bags of water, which, conveniently, the ocean can't crush. Even species that do have bones take a minimalist approach. Deep-sea fish often possess skeletons that are thin, flexible, and sometimes partially cartilaginous. Their bones aren't built for weight-bearing or sprinting through coral reefs. They're more like gentle scaffolding, just enough support to provide shape without creating stress points that pressure could exploit. If evolution had an IKEA catalogue for deep-sea animals, most skeletons would probably fall under the category light assembly required. Then there's the matter of gas. At the surface, many fish depend on gas-filled swim bladders to control their buoyancy. But gas is notoriously compressible. Take a fish with a swim bladder too deep, and that pocket of air collapses like a bad souffle. Deep-sea species avoid this issue entirely by evolving oil-filled or gelatin-filled chambers instead. Oil and gel resist compression, providing buoyancy without risking implosion. These modifications allow deep-sea creatures to hover gracefully in place, a luxury that would be impossible if they used the same flotation system as their shallow water cousins. Pressure also affects biochemistry in ways that feel almost unfair. Proteins, the tiny molecular machines that keep life running, tend to lose their shape under high pressure, like origami sculptures left out in a rainstorm. But deep-sea organisms have evolved unique versions of these proteins that remain stable even when squeezed by extreme forces. Some species produce special molecules that act almost like molecular braces, keeping proteins folded correctly. It's as if the organisms are handing out tiny structural supports to every worker molecule, saying, "You can do this. Don't let the pressure get to you." The fact that cells can function at these depths is a miracle of molecular engineering. Membranes, too, get custom upgrades. In high-pressure environments, cell membranes tend to stiffen, which interferes with processes like nutrient transport. Deep-sea creatures solve this by incorporating more fluid molecules into their membranes, preventing them from locking up. Imagine rubbing lotion on skin to keep it soft. Except in this case, the lotion is a biochemical cocktail, and the skin belongs to a creature living under a crushing tonnage of water. But perhaps the most counterintuitive adaptation is how some deep-sea animals take advantage of the pressure rather than merely resisting it. Certain species rely on pressure to maintain the shape of their bodies. Bring them to the surface, and their tissues swell, warp, or fall apart because the external support they depend on disappears. Some deep-sea fish pulled up by researchers arrive looking like collapsed balloons, not because they were damaged on the ascent, but because their entire anatomy was designed for a world where gravity is not the main sculptor, pressure is. These creatures are quite literally built for the deep and nowhere else. All of this leads to an unexpected truth. The deep sea's crushing pressure isn't just an obstacle. It's a creative force, nudging evolution into strange and ingenious shapes. Without pressure, many of the deep's most iconic body plans, the squishy drifters, the transparent hunters, the ghostly gelatin creatures, simply wouldn't exist. Life here doesn't resist the environment. It harmonizes with it. The deep sea isn't a graveyard crushed under the weight of the ocean. It's a thriving biosphere built from the rules of physics themselves. Pressure tries to crush everything, but life, ever persistent, figures out how to bend without breaking. And in the deep ocean, bending is the whole point. The deeper you travel into the ocean, the colder it gets, until eventually the water reaches a temperature so consistently frigid that your body would file several complaints and then shut down entirely. Down here, the ocean hovers just above freezing, cold enough to numb, stiffen, and sabotage most biological systems that aren't specifically designed for these conditions. And yet, in this icy world, life thrives with a kind of unhurried determination that makes the deep sea feel like nature's slow-motion documentary. These freezing temperatures don't just shape how organisms behave, they reshape their very chemistry. If the deep sea had a motto, it would be something like, "Go slow or go home." Cold water is incredibly dense, and it steals heat from living things faster than your motivation evaporates on a Monday morning. For most creatures, maintaining a comfortable internal temperature in such an environment would require a constant, energy-burning battle. But deep-sea organisms don't wage that war. Instead, evolution convinced them to embrace the cold and adapt around it. Across millennia, their biochemical processes shifted into slower gears. Metabolism rates dropped, muscles changed, enzymes morphed, and entire lifestyles rewired themselves around this extreme chill. If you watch a deep-sea creature move, the first thing you notice is that nothing seems rushed. Fish glide with a kind of dreamy calmness, like they're floating through a perpetual spa day. Crustaceans lift their legs with all the urgency of someone getting out of bed on a cold morning. Even predators, a group normally associated with energetic lunges and dramatic chases, move with a stealthy deliberateness that feels remarkably zen. This is not laziness, it is biological efficiency. Running at full speed in near-freezing temperatures is so energetically expensive that evolution has politely removed fast and furious from the deep-sea lifestyle options. At the heart of this slow-living strategy lies metabolism. In warm environments, metabolism can chug along happily, powering movement, growth, and all those internal chores life demands. But in cold water, chemical reactions slow down dramatically. Deep-sea organisms don't fight that slowdown, they optimize for it. Their bodies use less energy per day. They eat less often. They grow slowly. Some species take years to mature, and some individuals live astonishingly long lives simply because their biological clocks run at a glacial pace. If surface species are living in real time, deep-sea species operate in something closer to slow-motion playback. But the deep sea's cold presents more challenges than simply lowering the thermostat. There's a molecular problem lurking beneath the surface: proteins. Proteins are tiny molecular machines folded into delicate shapes that perform essential tasks inside cells. Cold temperatures make them sluggish, stiff, or worse, entirely misshapen. A badly folded protein is like a messed up IKEA instruction manual. Nothing works the way it's supposed to, and you question every choice that brought you to this moment. Deep-sea organisms solve this issue through specialized biochemical tweaks. One of evolution's coolest solutions, both literally and figuratively, is the use of antifreeze proteins. These remarkable molecules prevent ice crystals from forming inside cells. Ice is dangerous because its jagged edges slice apart membranes and organelles. If your cells froze from the inside, you'd quickly go from living organism to biological slush, but antifreeze proteins latch onto any microscopic ice crystals and stop them from growing. It's the biological equivalent of sprinkling sand on a frozen sidewalk, except instead of preventing human slip and falls, these proteins prevent lethal cellular disasters. What makes these antifreeze molecules even more fascinating is the diversity of ways they evolved. Different groups of deep living fish developed their own versions of antifreeze proteins, each with slight molecular variations, but the same end result. No freezing allowed. It's one of those evolutionary coincidences that suggest nature kept running into the same problem and solving it with increasingly clever chemistry. Some proteins mimic the shape of ice to lure microscopic crystals into binding with them. Others interfere with bonding between water molecules. It's basically biochemical sabotage, and it works beautifully. The cold also influences muscle structure. Deep-sea animals often have soft, low-density muscles that operate efficiently at low temperatures. But they are not built for speed. Instead, they conserve energy by moving just enough to achieve their goals, whether that's drifting toward a food particle or casually avoiding a predator. These slow, graceful movements are evolutionary masterpieces, refined not for dramatic pursuits, but for survival in a world where energy is precious and conservation is everything. Even digestion slows down in the deep. A single meal might sustain an organism for days or weeks. Some species evolve digestive enzymes that remain effective in near-freezing conditions, allowing them to break down food at a pace that matches their relaxed metabolic tempo. With fewer meals and fewer opportunities to feed, evolution shaped stomachs, intestines, and appetites to operate like long-term fuel tanks rather than quick recharge systems. And of course, with this slow pace of living comes a level of patience that borders on mythic. Reproduction, growth, healing, all of it takes longer. It's not unusual for deep-sea creatures to exhibit lifespans that seem almost unreal. Some corals in cold, deep environments have been dated at thousands of years old. Certain deep-sea fish live for centuries. In a world where everything moves slowly, longevity becomes less of an evolutionary luxury and more of a necessity. When maturation takes decades, individuals need long lives just to maintain viable populations. In the end, cold didn't just inconvenience deep-sea life, it sculpted it. Every slow heartbeat, every languid movement, every antifreeze protected cell is a testament to millions of years of adaptation. The deep sea isn't cold in a way that excludes life. It's cold in a way that forces life to rethink itself. And as always, life rises to the challenge, not by speeding up, but by mastering the art of going slow. If the deep sea had a grocery store, its shelves would be emptier than a fridge in a college dorm at the end of the semester. There are no lush fields of seaweed, no bustling reefs full of snacks darting around, no sunlit buffet drifting down from above. Instead, food arrives in the deep, like sporadic surprise deliveries. Sometimes a drizzle, sometimes a jackpot, and often nothing at all. In a place where the menu changes with the reliability of a broken clock, evolution had no choice but to sculpt creatures into some of the most resourceful feeders on the planet. Down here, creativity is the difference between surviving and becoming someone else's dinner. The largest and most predictable source of food is what scientists affectionately call marine snow. This sounds whimsical until you realize the flakes are mostly dead things, poop pellets, shed mucus, and the occasional chunk of someone who had a worse day than you. Still, in the deep sea, these drifting particles are as precious as gold dust. Many creatures evolved to specialize in gathering, sifting, or slurping up this constant drizzle of organic debris. Some detritivores simply wait on the seafloor with open mouths, literal organic vacuum cleaners, letting the ocean do the delivery work. Others move slowly across the sediment, grazing like cows in a field of decaying crumbs. Among the champions of detritus dining are sea cucumbers, which somehow manage to look both unimpressed and determined at all times. These soft-bodied vacuum tubes scoop up sediment, digest the edible bits, and expel the rest in tidy mounds. Over millions of years, their entire digestive system adapted for efficiency, long intestines, specialized enzymes, and a metabolism tuned perfectly for sifting through the equivalent of oceanic leftovers. They're the masters of the slow grind, turning the deep sea floor into a constantly recycled landscape. But detritus doesn't always fall evenly. Some areas get only the occasional sprinkle. That's where opportunism becomes crucial. Many deep-sea creatures will eat almost anything that drifts close enough. Plankton, jelly, tiny crustaceans, even dissolved nutrients if the situation becomes dire. Flexibility is a prized adaptation in a home where you cannot be picky. Some species evolved sensory organs so fine-tuned they can detect faint chemical whiffs from decaying matter miles away, following the scent trail like detectives who are extremely hungry. Still, being a scavenger is only one strategy. In the deep sea, there are also predators, just not the kind that burn calories chasing prey like caffeinated sprinters. Here, predators perfected the art of patience. Ambush predation is a staple, and evolution refined it with a level of dedication that borders on theatrical. These hunters conserve energy by staying perfectly still, blending into the darkness until something unfortunate wanders too close. Certain deep-sea fish have elongated jaws that snap shut with incredible speed, a helpful trait when meals show up with the frequency of rare celestial events. Others sport rows of backward-facing teeth that ensure prey, once caught, only moves in one direction, deeper into the digestive tract. Some lie buried in the sediment with only their eyes exposed, waiting like marine landmines with digestive systems. Others, perfect stealth. The tripod fish, for instance, props itself on long, bony fins as though posing for a gothic photo shoot. But this posture has a purpose. It positions itself facing the current, holding its fins wide to detect vibrations and catch anything drifting by. It isn't chasing anything. It is letting the ocean bring dinner directly to its face. If Netflix ever made a documentary titled Extreme Laziness in Nature, the tripod fish would have its own episode. But perhaps the most elegant feeding strategy in this abyssal world is filter feeding. While filter feeders are common in shallower waters, the deep brings its own spin to this lifestyle. Here, filter feeders must work with water that holds fewer nutrients and far fewer particles. Evolution responded by designing intricate sieving systems, feathery appendages, delicate nets of mucus, and complex fan organs capable of catching even microscopic drift. Some deep-sea crustaceans unfurl gossamer-like nets that shimmer faintly, ready to trap whatever edible specks pass by. Others wave long antennae coated in sticky mucus, accumulating tiny food particles like lint rollers. Certain tube worms extend feathery plumes that both filter food and exchange gases, multitasking because deep-sea survival rarely allows the luxury of specialization for just one job. Even stranger are creatures that build mucus structures the size of small cars. Transparent, drifting castles that trap particles as they flow through. When the feeding apparatus becomes clogged, the animal abandons it and builds another, proving that disposable tableware is not exclusively a human invention. But what about the big jackpots? Occasionally, a whale dies and sinks to the bottom, becoming a feast known as a whale fall. This is the deep sea's equivalent of winning the lottery. Except instead of joyfully shouting, everyone quietly descends and starts eating. Entire ecosystems erupt unexpectedly, with scavengers arriving first to tear into flesh, then specialists arriving later to feast on bones, fats, and microbes. Some species evolved specifically for these rare events, waiting decades for a meal large enough to sustain entire communities. Talk about commitment. A world where food is scarce forces organisms into remarkable behaviors. Many deep-sea creatures develop the ability to gorge when food is available, storing excess energy as fats or oils for the long stretches when the pantry runs out. Some species slow their metabolisms even further during lean periods, almost drifting into biological hibernation. Others migrate through the deep in search of richer patches of nutrients, embarking on journeys that would absolutely not fit onto a fitness tracker. In the end, the deep sea's scarce food supply didn't hinder evolution, it intensified it. Every strategy, from detritus grazing to ambush tactics to delicate filtering, emerged because survival demanded creativity. When food is unpredictable, you evolve to use whatever arrives, whenever it arrives, however it arrives. Down here, the ocean doesn't reward the fastest or the strongest. It rewards the clever, the patient, and the wildly adaptable. If you ever wander into the deep sea, and I sincerely hope you do so only in a well-built submersible, you'll notice that the darkness isn't quite as dark as you expected. Every so often, a flicker of blue light dances through the water, like the ocean itself can't resist adding special effects. These tiny sparks aren't sunlight sneaking down from above. They're creatures glowing with their own built-in light systems, like living neon signs advertising everything from romance to danger to dinner time. Bioluminescence is the deep sea's greatest evolutionary invention, and over millions of years, nature has refined it into a stunningly flexible tool. Down here, glowing isn't just pretty, it's power. The deep sea is the perfect stage for bioluminescence, mostly because the competition from sunlight is absolutely non-existent. When the world is pitch black 24 hours a day, even the faintest glow becomes impossible to ignore. Evolution grabbed this concept with both hands, shaping organisms that can produce light through precise chemical reactions inside their tissues. Mix luciferin with the enzyme luciferase, add oxygen, and voila, instant glow. It's chemistry with flair. But glowing for the sake of glowing would be a waste of energy, and energy is currency in the deep sea. So bioluminescence evolved for very practical reasons. Reasons so varied that the deep looks like an underwater metropolis of blinking signals. Every flash, shimmer and sparkle has meaning. Humans have text messages and social media. Deep sea animals have radiant pulses and elegant glows. And honestly, their communication sometimes seems more organized than ours. One of the most iconic uses of bioluminescence is communication. When the ocean floor is vast and lonely, you need some kind of long-distance messaging system. Many species developed patterned flashes to identify themselves. These aren't random twinkles. They're specific sequences, like a tap-coded language. One fish may emit a short burst followed by a long gleam, while another pulses in a rhythmic stutter. This glowing Morse code helps individuals find mates, avoid the wrong species, and reduce awkward misunderstandings like accidentally courting a predator. Imagine being on a date and discovering halfway through that your companion is not only uninterested but also very hungry. Bioluminescence helps prevent that kind of mishap. But communication isn't always friendly. Some creatures use flashes to intimidate rivals or signal territorial warnings. Others use light displays to synchronize group movements, like silent underwater flash mobs. Certain shrimp even blast sudden bursts of bioluminescence, to stun or confuse approaching threats, turning defensive communication into a glowing back-off sign. While social signaling is impressive, camouflage is where bioluminescence shows its cleverest tricks. In the deep sea's strange logic, glowing can actually make you invisible. This is thanks to counter-illumination, a technique where animals produce light from their bellies to match the faint glow coming from above. Predators swimming underneath can't see their silhouette because the animal is essentially erasing its own shadow. It's stealth mode powered by chemistry. Some fish adjust their glow intensity in real time, as though constantly tweaking a personal brightness setting. If evolution ever releases a software patch for this feature, humans will be first in line. Not surprisingly, predators found ways to twist bioluminescence into hunting gear. Perhaps the most famous example is the anglerfish, which dangles a glowing lure in front of its face like the world's creepiest fishing rod. Prey are attracted to the light, swim closer, and then instantly regret their life choices. Other predators scatter glowing particles around them to confuse prey about where they're coming from, like throwing handfuls of glitter before an ambush. Some species deploy slow pulsing glows that hypnotize smaller organisms into drifting closer, drawn by the only visible thing in an otherwise endless dark. Then there's the reverse hunting strategy, glowing to reveal predators instead of catching prey. Some animals emit sudden flashes that force predators to light up by silhouette. These quick bursts expose ambushers hiding in the dark, turning the tables with a brilliant "I see you" announcement. But the deep sea's glowing life doesn't operate on instinct alone. Over countless generations, species developed highly specialized light organs, structures so elaborate they look like they belong on alien spacecraft. Some organisms produce light with bacteria they house in special pockets, feeding these microbes in exchange for steady illumination. Others grow photophores, organs packed with reflective layers, lenses, and even shutters. Yes, shutters. Some animals blink their light on and off, like they're equipped with tiny natural flashlights. One of the most remarkable things about bioluminescence is how widespread it is. It evolved independently again and again across unrelated groups. Fish didn't get the idea from squid. Squid didn't get the idea from jellyfish. Jellyfish didn't borrow from worms. Each lineage invented its own version of glowing because the deep sea demanded creativity. In evolutionary terms, it's like multiple civilizations independently inventing electricity just because the night was too dark. And with all these glowing signals filling the deep, it's not hard to see how the ocean became its own quiet social network. Some species use dim, steady glows to stay in loose contact with others in their group. Gelatinous organisms drift through the darkness with slow waves of illumination that serve as both identity badges and traffic signals. Even larvae glow, sending out gentle cues that help them avoid predators before they're even fully formed. We tend to think of the deep sea as a void, a silent, empty place where life simply drifts. But for creatures living there, the darkness is alive with messages, warnings, invitations, distractions, and deceptions, all written in the only language that makes sense when light is scarce, the language of glow. Bioluminescence is more than a neat trick. It's a spectacular evolutionary toolkit that turned the deep into a realm of shimmering communication and radiant survival strategies. In a world without sunlight, life learned not just to live in the dark, but to write in it. Imagine living in a neighborhood where the next closest member of your species isn't across the street or 3 houses down, but somewhere beyond a few hundred meters of inky black water. Far enough that even the most dedicated extrovert would give up on socializing. That's the romantic landscape of the deep sea. It is a place where potential mates are so spread out that finding one can feel less like biology and more like a cosmic scavenger hunt. And because evolution absolutely hates leaving things to chance, deep-sea creatures have developed some of the most creative reproductive strategies in the entire animal kingdom. Down here, romance must be efficient, improvised, and occasionally a little horrifying. The first obstacle is the obvious one: distance. Many deep-sea animals drift through enormous territories, rarely encountering another member of their species. This scarcity demanded an evolutionary shift away from the casual, proximity-based mating of shallow water creatures. In the deep, securing a mate requires adaptations that help individuals sense, attract, store, or permanently attach to a partner. The result is a gallery of reproductive tactics, ranging from clever to bizarre, to "I really did not need to know that." One of the most iconic examples comes from deep-sea anglerfish. If deep-sea dating apps existed, anglerfish would be the poster species. The female is comparatively massive, sometimes hundreds of times larger than the male, while the male is essentially a floating, eager mouth with fins. The ocean is far too vast for them to meet often, so evolution took the uncertainty out of the equation. When a male eventually encounters a female, he doesn't risk drifting away again. Instead, he bites her side with specialized teeth that latch on permanently. Over time, his body fuses with hers, blood vessels intertwine, and he essentially becomes a living attachment, like a tiny, devoted USB device plugged in for life. In return for his presence, he receives nourishment from her circulatory system, and she gets a ready supply of sperm whenever she needs it. It's efficient, if not exactly romantic. You could call it marriage, but only if the vows include "till molecular fusion do us part." Not all deep-sea species go quite that far, but many have evolved chemical strategies to solve the problem of distance. Scent-based communication becomes incredibly important. Some creatures release pheromones into the water, powerful chemical signals that can travel astonishing distances. Males of certain deep-sea worms and crustaceans possess long, sensitive antennae designed to detect these faint chemical trails, following them through the darkness like a biologically motivated GPS. It's a slow, drifting courtship, but in the deep sea, simply sniffing out another member of your species counts as a major social victory. Other species use sound or vibrations to locate partners. Since light is non-existent and chemical signals diffuse slowly, some creatures create rhythmic pulses in the water, functioning as long-distance announcements. "Hello, I am here. Please do not be a predator." These vibrations help synchronize gatherings, or at least help individuals avoid wasting precious energy searching blindly. Some deep-sea fish have muscular swim bladders that act like natural drums, producing low-frequency thumps that travel far in the dense water. These sounds aren't songs exactly, but they get the job done. Some organisms take a completely different approach. They broadcast their gametes into the ocean and simply hope for the best. In many shallow water species, this strategy works because animals gather in huge numbers. In the deep sea, gatherings rarely happen, so individuals must compensate by producing massive quantities of sperm or eggs to increase the odds of a successful encounter. The ocean currents become unwitting matchmakers, stirring genetic material until the right combinations meet. It's the biological equivalent of buying thousands of raffle tickets and hoping one of them works out. Certain species, especially those living near the seafloor, evolved brooding strategies that maximize survival in a sparse environment. Mothers may guard eggs for years, protecting them from predators and keeping them oxygenated in water where circulation is sluggish. Some deep-sea octopuses hold one of the world's longest brooding records, tending their eggs for more than 4 years without eating. Imagine staying hungry for the entire duration of high school, and you start to appreciate the dedication. Meanwhile, some animals hedge their bets by storing reproductive material for long stretches of time. Females of certain species can keep sperm viable for months or even years, using it only when conditions are right or when their bodies have built enough resources to support offspring. It's like having a biological savings account for emergencies, except the deposit is a male's contribution and the withdrawal involves making babies. And then there are creatures that blend multiple strategies because deep-sea life demands versatility. Some jellyfish-like organisms switch between sexual and asexual reproduction depending on whether they manage to find a mate. When partners are available, they swap genetic material. When solitude persists, they clone themselves to ensure their lineage continues. Evolution, always practical, doesn't judge. Perhaps the strangest solutions arise from species that form temporary reproductive swarms. Most of the year they drift alone, but during rare environmental cues, changes in temperature, shifts in currents, or bursts of organic material, they gather in surprising numbers. For a short window, the deep sea becomes a chaotic dance floor where everyone is suddenly within mating distance. Then, just as quickly, the gathering dissolves into isolation once more. These moments are so brief and unpredictable that researchers sometimes observe them only by accident, shining a light on how perfectly adapted these creatures are to seizing opportunities the moment they appear. In the deep sea, reproduction cannot rely on luck. It must be engineered, refined, and sometimes outright reinvented. From chemical breadcrumbs to vibrational signals to lifelong fusion partnerships, every strategy reflects a world where mates are rare and the stakes are high. Far from being bleak, though, these adaptations reveal something remarkable. Even in the loneliest reaches of the planet, life finds a way not only to persist, but to persist creatively. In a place where romance must cross kilometers of darkness, evolution turned reproduction into an art form. Imagine stumbling upon a forest at midnight, a forest with no trees, no leaves, no sunlight, and no photosynthesis. Instead, the trees are chimney-like towers, belching black smoke into icy water. The ground is littered with mineral crusts, and the inhabitants look like they came straight from an experimental creature design workshop. This isn't a scene from a sci-fi novel. It's a hydrothermal vent ecosystem, one of the most astonishing environments on Earth. These vents sit along cracks in the seafloor, where superheated, mineral-heavy fluids burst into the deep ocean like underwater geysers. And despite the blistering heat and caustic chemistry, life doesn't just survive here. It thrives with such flamboyance that biologists nearly fell out of their chairs when the first vents were discovered. Most ecosystems, including every jungle, meadow, coral reef, and backyard garden, rely on sunlight as the starting point for their energy chain. Plants take sunlight and turn it into chemical fuel. Animals eat the plants. Other animals eat those animals. Eventually, someone writes a nature documentary about it. But in the deep sea, sunlight never arrives. Instead, hydrothermal vents flipped the entire energy script by using chemistry as their primary currency. Their ecosystems run on chemosynthesis, a process where microbes harvest energy from minerals rather than sunshine. Picture water heated by magma deep within the earth, dissolving metals and sulfur compounds as it passes through cracks in the crust. When this superheated liquid gushes out of the vent openings and hits the icy ocean, the minerals precipitate instantly, forming towering structures known as black smokers or white smokers, depending on the chemicals involved. The water streaming out of these chimneys can reach temperatures that would destroy most life on the planet, sometimes exceeding 400 degrees Celsius. Yet, astonishingly, around the edges of these vents. Life forms cluster together like eager patrons around a particularly good food truck. The real magicians here are the chemosynthetic bacteria and archaea. Instead of capturing sunlight, they use chemical reactions, often involving hydrogen sulfide, methane, or iron, to build sugars and other organic molecules. These microbes are the deep sea's equivalent of plants, except their photosynthesis smells a bit like rotten eggs and molten metal. They create the foundation that allows larger, more complex organisms to flourish in this otherwise inhospitable world. Enter the vent fauna, a collection of creatures as bizarre as their habitat. Giant tube worms, for example, are easily some of the strangest animals ever discovered. They lack mouths, stomachs, and intestines, minor anatomical details that most animals consider fairly important. Instead, they house symbiotic bacteria inside their massive bodies. The worm provides shelter and raw materials. The bacteria provide food. It's a living partnership so efficient that the worms can grow over 2 meters long, basically enormous red-plumed chimneys full of microbes that do all the cooking. Then there are the vent crabs, squat little creatures that look like they're perpetually annoyed. These white, near-blind scavengers move with curious urgency across the mineral landscape, scraping up bacteria and whatever edible bits appear. They're joined by vent shrimp that cluster in dense swarms, using specialized organs to detect heat gradients so they can stay close enough to the vents to feed, but not so close that they get cooked into shrimp cocktail. Vent mussels, clams, and snails also join the party, many of them packed with their own symbiotic bacteria. Some snails possess iron-plated shells, a kind of biological armor that would make even a medieval knight jealous. Others have fuzzy bacterial gardens growing on their bodies, which they graze like eco-friendly farmers tending to their own mobile crops. And let's not overlook the predators. With so much life clustered in tight, energetic hubs, opportunistic hunters show up looking for easy meals. Some fish lurk around the outskirts, watching for sudden movements. Certain worms and shrimp-like creatures snatch prey with astonishing speed, taking advantage of the crowded environment. Even scavengers patrol the outskirts, waiting for weaker animals to succumb to the extreme conditions. If the vents are underwater cities, the predators are the pickpockets, the gatekeepers, and the night watch, all rolled into one. One of the most fascinating aspects of hydrothermal vent ecosystems is how dynamic they are. Vents don't last forever. Some flare up for years or decades. Others vanish in geological eye blinks. When a vent shuts down, the entire community collapses, forcing species to disperse in search of new hotspots. To survive this instability, many vent organisms evolved remarkable dispersal strategies, sending larvae drifting across the ocean floor until they detect signs of new vent activity. The fact that they can find these isolated, unpredictable locales in the vast, dark ocean is nothing short of miraculous. Like trying to locate a single lit match in an unlit stadium. The vents also highlight just how adaptable life can be. Extreme temperatures, toxic chemicals, crushing pressure. None of it deters life from carving out a niche here. The existence of chemosynthetic ecosystems even inspired scientists to rethink the origins of life itself. Some hypothesize that early life on Earth may have begun around these mineral-rich vents, where chemical energy was abundant long before sunlight-driven photosynthesis evolved. If that idea holds weight, hydrothermal vents aren't just bizarre neighborhoods. They're cradle-like environments that helped life get its start. Even more intriguingly, hydrothermal vents provide a blueprint for what life might look like on other worlds. Jupiter's moon, Europa, and Saturn's moon, Enceladus, both have evidence of oceans beneath icy crusts. If those oceans contain vents, they might also contain life, powered by chemosynthesis. In this way, the deep-sea chimneys of Earth act as cosmic ambassadors, demonstrating that sunlight isn't a prerequisite for living things. Hydrothermal vents are reminders that life doesn't need ideal conditions, it just needs opportunity. Where heat, minerals and water meet, life emerges with remarkable creativity. The deep sea may be cold, dark and crushing, but these vents prove that somewhere in the shadows, biological brilliance is always waiting to blaze forth. If someone handed you a catalogue of deep-sea creatures without context, you might assume it came from a world where evolution couldn't decide on a consistent sizing policy. Some animals are gigantic, absurdly so, stretching far beyond what their surface relatives ever achieve. Others are so tiny, they look like they were printed at half scale. And then there are the ones that seem normal at first glance, but reveal proportions so strange, you end up wondering if they're genuinely mid-sized or just stuck in an evolutionary identity crisis. The deep sea is a realm of dramatic size extremes, where both giants and miniatures thrive because the rules that govern life here are unlike those anywhere else on Earth. To understand why the deep sea produces such a wild spectrum of sizes, you first need to picture its defining qualities: vastness, stillness, stability, and a nearly complete lack of disturbances. Combine that with limited food, intense pressure, and cold temperatures, and you get conditions that push species down radically different evolutionary paths. In some cases, those paths favor becoming enormous. In others, they push organisms towards shrinking into compact, hyper-efficient versions of themselves. It's like watching nature conduct a long-term experiment with two contradictory hypotheses, and discovering that both of them work. Let's start with gigantism, because nothing grabs attention quite like an animal that's way larger than you think it should be. Deep-sea gigantism refers to the phenomenon where species in the deep grow far bigger than their surface relatives. Think giant isopods that look like pill bugs on performance enhancers, or colossal squids with eyes the size of dinner plates. And then there's the Japanese spider crab, stretching its limbs across a span so broad it could theoretically block traffic if it ever wandered onto a deep-sea highway. One major driver of gigantism is the simple fact that the deep sea is spacious, astonishingly so, with so much room to live and drift. Creatures can grow larger without bumping into ecological limits. There's no coral reef crowding, no bustling fish metropolis to squeeze through. Evolution can expand body size without running into the usual constraints of space. Cold temperatures play another role. Larger bodies retain heat more efficiently and support slower metabolisms that are well suited to the deep's unhurried pace. Being big also helps animals store more energy for those unpredictable feeding opportunities. A giant isopod can eat a massive meal and then wait months, even years, before needing another one. Big bodies are like biological savings accounts, excellent for long-term survival in a world where meals arrive on their own mysterious schedule. Low predation pressure is another factor. In many deep sea zones, large predators are rare. Without the constant threat of being eaten, some species can grow to impressive sizes simply because no one shows up to stop them. It's the ultimate grow as much as you want developmental plan, sponsored entirely by the abyss. But as much as gigantism grabs headlines, miniaturization is equally important and just as fascinating. In many corners of the deep sea, smallness is the superior strategy. Tiny body sizes mean less energy required to survive, which is a tremendous advantage in a place where food is unpredictable. Some deep-sea crustaceans are so small they look like dust motes with ambitions. Tiny mollusks drift through the water column like living confetti. Microscopic worms weave between grains of sediment in a never-ending race to mind their own business. Miniaturization is especially favored among species that feed on extremely sparse nutrient sources or live in places where the energy budget is tighter than the budget for a low-budget nature documentary. Being small means needing less oxygen, less space, and far fewer calories. It also means reproducing at lower cost. Tiny parents can produce tiny offspring without investing as much energy in each one. Some deep-sea miniatures have reduced body structures because the environment allows it. With no need for quick escapes or complex hunting strategies, they can shed unnecessary appendages or shrink them to the biological equivalent of basic mode. Their organs become condensed, their limbs delicate, and their entire physiology tailored toward conserving energy. It's survival by subtraction, and evolution makes every millimeter count. What's especially interesting is how both gigantism and miniaturization can appear within the same ecosystem, sometimes even within the same genus. The deep sea doesn't demand a single correct body plan. It rewards diversity in extremes, with little competition and a mosaic of micro-habitats defined by currents, terrain, and chemical gradients. Species can carve niches that favor either expansion or contraction. It's an environment that offers both vast opportunities and challenging limitations, allowing opposite solutions to flourish side by side. Then there are the in-betweens, creatures that are average-sized overall, but have proportions that defy normal design logic. Some fish sport oversized heads on modest bodies, as if evolution ran out of materials halfway through. Certain gelatinous organisms have bodies so elongated that describing them requires both hands and a metaphor. Meanwhile, various deep-sea larvae look colossal compared to their eventual adult forms because they grow up shrinking instead of growing larger. Only the deep sea could host animals that start life big and end life small, following a developmental path that feels like reverse aging. This size switching can be influenced by dispersal strategies. Being large as a larva helps individuals drift long distances in a vast ocean, while being small as adults conserves energy in stable niches. It's a clever strategy, if a slightly confusing one, and it reveals how much the deep sea rewards adaptability at every life stage. Ultimately, the extremes of size in the deep sea aren't anomalies. They're evidence of evolution responding creatively to a world with unusual rules. When energy is limited and space is abundant, when temperatures are low and pressure is high, when interactions with other species are sparse and unpredictable, nature doesn't settle for average. It builds giants that drift like living submarines, miniatures that survive on crumbs, and everything in between that defies expectation. In the deep ocean, size isn't just a trait, it's a survival strategy. And the strategies are as varied as the creatures that embody them. If you were suddenly dropped into the deep sea, again let's hope only hypothetically, you'd find that your finely tuned human senses become about as useful as a flashlight with no batteries. Sight? Forget it. Hearing? Mostly muffled. Smell? Limited at best. Touch? Helpful only until something touches back. The deep ocean is a sensory void for creatures like us, but for the animals that evolved there, it's a playground of invisible signals, subtle currents, faint vibrations, drifting molecules, and electrical whispers. Down here, survival depends on listening to the language of the dark. And evolution has crafted sensory tools so specialized, they make human abilities look like outdated hardware. The deep sea forces every creature to navigate without light, which means most species rely on senses that don't depend on photons. Over millions of years, Evolution rewired nervous systems to interpret signals we can't even consciously detect. If shallow water animals live in a world of sight and sound, deep-sea species live in a world of tremors, chemicals, and electromagnetic flickers. It's like stepping into a different reality, one where information flows not through color and brightness, but through pressure waves and molecular trails that drift for miles. Let's start with vibration detection, one of the most widespread sensory systems in the deep. Sound travels beautifully in water, farther and faster than it does in air, which means disturbances can be read like messages moving through a liquid medium. Many deep-sea creatures possess elongated sensory hairs, delicate fins, or specialized skin patches that detect even the slightest movements in the water column. A small shift in current, the gentle flutter of fins, the distant thump of something large moving, all of these become cues for feeding, fleeing, or finding companions. Some deep-sea fish rely on an enhanced lateral line system, a series of fluid-filled canals that run along their bodies. These canals are lined with sensory cells that respond to pressure changes, allowing the fish to see through touch. Imagine being able to sense the shape of your entire environment without opening your eyes. That's the lateral line at work. In the deep, it's not just a backup to vision, it's the main sensory operating system. Other species take vibration detection even further. Certain crustaceans can detect the infrared-like heat signatures of moving animals through changes in water temperature, while some deep-dwelling sharks pick up low-frequency pulses from struggling prey. These sensors function like underwater seismographs, translating movement into meaning. In the deep ocean, a gentle tremor might mean food approaching, a predator passing by, or a rival staking out territory. Reading the vibrations correctly can be the difference between dinner and disaster, but vibrations are only part of the sensory landscape. Many deep-sea creatures also evolved extraordinary chemical detection abilities, what we'd casually call smell, though theirs operates at a level humans can't fathom. With currents carrying chemical signatures across enormous distances, animals can follow faint trails left behind by potential prey, mates, or competitors. These chemical breadcrumbs drift through the deep like invisible highways. Some animals have antennae so finely tuned they can differentiate between molecules at parts per trillion concentrations. Others use taste receptors scattered across their bodies, turning their skin into a full-body sensory net. For them, navigating the deep isn't a matter of sight or touch, it's more like reading a shifting chemical map. A single whiff of the right compound can spark a long-distance journey toward a food source or a reproductive opportunity. This chemical navigation plays an especially important role around seafloor environments with localized chemical signatures, cold seeps, carcasses, or microbial blooms. Animals gather not by seeing one another, but by detecting the chemistry of a shared destination. It's the deep sea's equivalent of announcing a party through scent alone, and somehow everyone still finds it. Then we have electromagnetic sensing, perhaps the most mysterious of all deep-sea sensory adaptations. Some species, particularly sharks, have specialized organs known as ampullae of Lorenzini. These tiny gel-filled pores can detect weak electric fields produced by muscle contractions and nerve impulses in other animals. In the deep, where light is irrelevant and sound can be confusing, the faint electrical hum of a living organism becomes a beacon. Sharks can detect the heartbeat of a hidden fish buried in sediment. They can sense the flicker of electrical activity as prey twitches in the water column. It's the closest thing nature offers to a biological radar system. Other species take electromagnetic sensing in surprising directions. Certain rays and fish use electric fields to probe their environment, sending out weak pulses and interpreting the returning signals. It's like having a built-in sonar system, except instead of sound waves, they use electrical ones. These evolved sensory systems allow animals to navigate rugged terrain, avoid obstacles, and detect subtle features of the seafloor, even when everything around them is pitch black. But the diversity doesn't end there. Some deep-sea creatures evolved mechanoreceptors that respond specifically to internal pressure changes, helping them orient themselves in a world where gravity feels ambiguous and currents can disorient. Others detect the faint bioelectric glows produced by microorganisms. Some animals combine multiple sensory systems into a rich mosaic of information, creating a kind of neural symphony that allows them to move, feed, and survive in an environment that would leave humans helpless. What ties all these adaptations together is the deep ocean's unique demands. Without light, animals shifted towards senses that reveal the invisible structure of their world. Without reliable food, they evolved abilities to detect opportunity from afar. Without crowded habitats, they built systems that interpret the faintest traces left by distant creatures. The result is a sensory ecology that feels almost supernatural. Deep-sea animals see through currents, vibrations, chemicals, and electric pulses. They read the water the way we read facial expressions, using cues so subtle that our brains evolved to ignore them entirely. In the deep sea, every ripple is information, every chemical drift a message, every electromagnetic flicker a signal waiting to be interpreted. And while it might seem strange to imagine a world perceived through such alien senses, for deep-sea creatures, it's the only reality they've ever known, a world where the unseen is everything, and the darkness is not empty, but alive with sensory meaning. If shallow water ecosystems are buzzing metropolises full of fast chases, bright warnings, and creatures constantly bumping into one another, the deep sea is more like a ghost town patrolled by specialists who take their jobs very seriously. Down here, predators aren't sprinting after prey in dramatic bursts of speed. They're drifting, lurking, waiting, and deploying strategies so subtle that the ocean itself seems to be holding its breath. Predation in the deep sea operates under a different set of rules, shaped by scarcity, stillness, and an environment where mistakes are expensive. When food is rare and energy conservation is law, hunters become artists of patience and precision. The first thing to understand is that deep-sea predators can't afford to chase anything unless they're absolutely certain the chase will end in a meal. A failed pursuit wastes energy they might not have again for weeks. This pushes evolution toward ambush tactics. Stay still, stay hidden, and strike only when the odds are unbeatable. It's not about speed, it's about strategy. Take, for example, those eerie, wide-jawed fish that seem custom-built for sudden lunges. Their bodies are often delicate, sometimes nearly transparent, because they don't need armor or speed. They need to blend into darkness and unleash lightning-fast bites. Some species have jaws that can unhinge to swallow prey, almost their own size. Not because they're showing off, but because rejecting a meal due to poor sizing is a luxury no deep-sea predator can afford. If it fits inside you somehow, congratulations, dinner is served. But ambush predation expresses itself in more creative ways than simply sit still and wait. Some predators use bodies designed for stealth. The gulper eel, for instance, looks like someone crossed a ribbon with a balloon, but its oversized mouth is a marvel of evolution. When prey wanders too close, it inflates its mouth like a biological parachute, engulfing food in a single, sweeping gulp. This isn't a chase. It's a carefully planned surprise. Other species weaponize stillness so thoroughly that they become near statues in the water column. Some deep-sea fish position themselves vertically rather than horizontally, pointing upward or downward to better intercept drifting prey. Their fins extend like delicate props, holding them motionless for hours or even days. It's not a glamorous lifestyle, but no one comes to the deep sea for glamour. Gelatinous predators bring a whole different flavor to the table. In the deep, jelly-like creatures aren't passive drifters. They're engineering marvels. Some build enormous, transparent curtains of mucus, nearly invisible in the darkness, ready to ensnare anything that swims into them. These sticky nets can stretch for meters, capturing prey with the efficiency of an underwater spiderweb. The predator doesn't chase. It simply harvests whatever fortune delivers. Certain ctenophores and jellyfish use trailing tentacles that stretch long distances, swaying gently like curtains in a cold, slow-motion breeze. Each tentacle is lined with specialized cells, ready to capture or sting any unlucky passerby. Because gelatinous animals expend little energy, they can maintain these traps indefinitely, turning their entire bodies into living, drifting snares. Some predators don't bother with traps or ambushes. Instead, they rely on stealth tactics honed through millions of years. Their bodies have evolved unusually matte surfaces that absorb rather than reflect what little light exists. Some species are so black, ultra black, and in fact, that they absorb upward of 99% of all incoming light. Even bioluminescent flashes aimed directly at them get swallowed by their skin, leaving predators invisible in an environment where even a silhouette could cost you a meal. This ultra-black camouflage is especially useful for species that hunt glowing prey. If you're stalking animals that light themselves up like tiny floating lanterns, you cannot allow your own body to reflect even the faintest glow. So evolution built deep-sea predators into shadow incarnate, able to drift within arm's reach of luminescent organisms without exposing themselves. But not every predator sits in silence waiting for luck to deliver a meal. Some actively manipulate the environment to draw prey in. While bioluminescence itself was explored earlier, here it becomes a tool of deceit. Certain predators flash patterns that mimic harmless organisms, drawing curious animals closer until it's too late. Others emit soft flickers that resemble the movement of small prey, like a biological decoy. These aren't simply lights, they're lures, crafted by natural selection to exploit curiosity or hunger. Beyond the tricks and traps, deep-sea predators must contend with the slow-motion nature of their environment. The cold, dense water reduces muscle efficiency and dampens quick movements, so predators evolve muscles capable of sudden bursts rather than sustained chases. It's all about the strike, the single, decisive moment where precision and timing matter more than speed. Many predators have lightning-fast reflexes, honed through necessity. If that strike fails, it might be days before another opportunity drifts their way. Even more intriguing are the predators that operate on a timescale that defies surface logic. Some siphonophores, colonial organisms made of many genetically identical individuals, build feeding structures that can stretch for dozens of meters. Along these drifting chains are specialized bodies that sting, digest, or lure prey, turning the organism into a floating city of coordinated hunting. Each part serves its purpose in a slow, steady, relentless strategy. It's not so much a predator as it is an ecosystem condensed into a single superorganism. Scavengers, too, play a critical predatory role in the deep. While they don't hunt live prey, they must arrive quickly when an opportunity appears. A carcass, a fallen fish, or a sudden nutrient-rich deposit. Their sensory systems are tuned for rapid detection, and their competition, though sparse, is highly efficient. In a world where meals don't come often, being the first on the scene is a predatory advantage. Ultimately, deep-sea predation isn't defined by ferocity or speed, it's defined by finesse. The predators of the deep don't rush, they calculate. They don't chase, they outweight, outblend, or outsmart. They are sculpted by an environment where success depends on patience, ingenuity, and the ability to capitalize on the rare opportunities that drift through the darkness. In this silent world, hunting isn't a high-speed spectacle. It's a slow ballet performed in shadow, where the smallest movement can define survival. Every evening, right as the sun sinks and the world above begins winding down, the deep sea comes alive with one of the most extraordinary natural phenomena on the planet. Entire communities of creatures, fish, squid, crustaceans, jelly-like drifters, start rising from the depths in what amounts to the ocean's nightly elevator ride. This massive movement, known as the Deal vertical migration, is the largest synchronized journey made by living things anywhere on Earth. And the best part? It happens every single night, quietly, invisibly, while most humans are brushing their teeth and deciding whether to watch one more episode. To understand why this colossal commute exists, you have to picture the ocean as a layered world. Near the surface lies the sunlit zone, warm, rich in nutrients, and bursting with energy from sunlight. Deeper down, the twilight zone dims into bluish hush, and still deeper lies the midnight zone, where darkness reigns and most of the daily action centers on survival through subtlety. Many deep-sea animals spend their days hiding in these deeper waters, where predators that rely on vision can't easily find them. But as soon as night falls and the danger of being spotted decreases, they rise upward, like commuters heading toward a bustling city that only opens after dark. The journey itself is astonishing. Some creatures travel hundreds of meters upward, which, if you're keeping score, is equivalent to a human walking from the base of a mountain to its summit every night and returning before dawn. And they make this trip not occasionally, not seasonally, but every single day of their lives. If these animals wore fitness trackers, the devices would simply give up and declare them legendary. Vertical migration evolved because the ocean surface offers something irresistible: abundant food. Phytoplankton, the tiny drifting plants of the sea, soak up sunlight and produce energy-rich cells that become the base of the marine food chain. Small animals like zooplankton want to eat them, but doing so during the day is like trying to sneak snacks from the kitchen with all the lights on. Predators see everything. So evolution crafted a compromise. Eat at night, hide during the day. It's nature's version of a stealth mission, complete with strict scheduling. The upper reaches of the ocean might seem safe after sunset, but the creatures performing this daily commute aren't reckless. They rise slowly, often timing their ascent with fading light so precisely it's as if someone installed internal dimmer switches. Once near the surface, they feed voraciously, taking advantage of the nutrient-rich buffet. At dawn, just as the first hints of light begin filtering into the water, they begin their retreat, melting back into the depths before predators wake up and start their morning routines. This daily rhythm doesn't just apply to tiny zooplankton. Larger creatures join the movement too. Lanternfish, which sound like something that should be carrying tiny underwater lanterns, but sadly do not, form massive part of the migrating community. They travel in enormous schools, rising to eat and then descending to digest. Squid also participate, gliding upward on silent fins in search of prey. Shrimps, jellies, and gelatinous animals drift along with them. If you could see the ocean from the side, illuminated like an aquarium, you'd watch a slow-moving cloud of life, rising and falling with perfect timing. These migrations have enormous impacts on the planet. Each night, millions upon millions of animals carry nutrients upward as they feed and drift back down, carrying partially digested material. The ocean's nutrient cycle depends heavily on this movement, which helps distribute carbon and organic matter between layers. Some scientists call it a conveyor belt, others call it a pump, but the idea is the same. These small creatures are shaping Earth's carbon cycle every single night through the simple act of commuting for dinner. To pull off these migrations, deep-sea animals evolved remarkable physical and behavioral traits. Many have muscular systems optimized for slow but steady movement. Others float upward by adjusting internal densities or gently paddling with minimal energy expenditure. In an environment where every calorie counts, efficiency is everything. Some species time their ascent to coincide with slight changes in water temperature or pressure, using environmental cues like invisible stoplights to guide their journey. Light sensitivity plays a major role too. Many migrating animals possess photoreceptors so attuned that they can detect changes in brightness too subtle for the human eye. These creatures aren't just rising because it's nighttime in the human sense. They're responding to micro-level changes in light particles drifting through the water column. The moment the risk of being seen by predators increases, they start descending like clockwork. Interestingly, this enormous migration also shapes predator strategies. Some deep-sea hunters don't bother traveling far themselves. They simply move up or down slightly to intercept the migrating masses. Other predators time their own movements around this great nightly pulse, positioning themselves along the path like opportunistic commuters waiting near a busy escalator. And while the commute is a survival strategy, it's also a huge gamble. Rising into shallower waters means entering a world with more predators, more competition, and more environmental change. But the payoff is too good to ignore. It's the ultimate biological trade-off, one that evolution has reinforced again and again across countless species. The result is a nightly migration so large that if you could see the biomass moving at once, you might mistake it for the ocean itself rising to meet the sky. What makes this migration especially incredible is its consistency. For millions of years, long before humans invented clocks or calendars, these creatures have been performing this ritual with impeccable precision. Day in, day out, they rise and fall with the rhythm of the planet. A living heartbeat hidden deep beneath the waves. In the grand tapestry of the deep sea, vertical migration is one of the most elegant patterns evolution ever wove. It connects the dark depths to the shimmering surface, linking ecosystems that would otherwise be completely separate. It transforms the ocean each night from a still expanse into a bustling, rising wave of life, a wave you never see, but one that keeps the ocean, and in many ways the planet, alive. Before giant squids, before anglerfish, before anything with a mouth, eyes, or the ability to glower meaningfully into the darkness, there were microbes. Tiny, ancient, tireless microbes. And while the deep sea today is filled with strange and charismatic creatures, it is these microscopic pioneers, hidden in the dark, scattered through sediments, drifting in cold currents, clustered around chemical hotspots, that run much of the planet's chemistry like unseen backstage engineers. Their evolutionary journey, shaped in the crushing dark far below the waves, is one of the most quietly influential sagas in Earth's history. To appreciate these deep-sea microbes, you have to understand that they are not merely surviving in the abyss. They're thriving in places that make the concept of extreme seem timid. Many of them live in temperatures near freezing. Others exist in boiling vent fluids hot enough to intimidate your kitchen appliances. Some persist in pressures that would flatten anything with bones into a biological pancake. Yet through all of this, they orchestrate chemical transformations essential to life on Earth, all while staying almost completely invisible. Deep-sea microbes follow evolutionary rules starkly different from their surface relatives. With no sunlight, no plants, and no photosynthesis, these organisms have evolved metabolic pathways that rely on chemical reactions alone. They extract energy from sulfur, methane, ammonia, hydrogen, iron, and even rocks themselves. You could say they eat the earth, slowly, meticulously, and with the dedication of creatures that have absolutely mastered the art of resourcefulness. Some of the earliest microbial lineages on the planet may have originated not in sunlit shallows, but in deep-sea environments where mineral-rich fluids gushed from the seafloor. These microbes developed chemosynthetic pathways long before photosynthesis took off near the surface. This chemical metabolism is ancient, efficient, and stubbornly persistent. Microbes at hydrothermal vents and cold seeps are essentially performing chemical wizardry, turning raw inorganic compounds into energy-rich molecules that support entire ecosystems. But not all deep-sea microbes live near vents or seeps. Many inhabit sediments, far from any dramatic geological activity. These microbes survive by recycling slow-falling organic matter, dead plankton, drifting debris, the fine powders of broken-down life. And they do it at a pace that would make even the most patient creature look hyperactive. Some deep-sea microbes operate with metabolic rates so slow that individual cells may persist for centuries without dividing. That's not a typo. Centuries. Imagine going your whole life without eating a real meal, and instead sipping on diluted nutrients through the equivalent of a molecular straw. These microbes don't just live slowly. They perfected slow living long before it became a wellness trend. Then there are the deep biosphere microbes, buried beneath the seafloor itself. These are the hidden populations, occupying sediment layers reaching miles into the crust. Trapped in darkness and pressed under immense weight, they live in micro spaces between sediment grains where water trickles in molecule-sized sips. Some scientists have likened them to cellular fossils that just haven't decided to die yet. Except they are alive, quietly cycling elements and influencing the chemistry of Earth's interior. Their evolutionary strategy is simple: endure, persist, and function at the very edge of biological possibility. Across all these habitats, deep-sea microbes contribute to global cycles of carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, and more. When they break down dead organic matter, they regulate the ocean's carbon storage. When they oxidize methane in cold seeps, they prevent massive amounts of this greenhouse gas from reaching the atmosphere. In fact, without deep-sea microbes constantly removing methane from seafloor emissions, Earth's climate might look radically different, and not in a good way. They are, in every sense, tiny chemical guardians of the planet. The sulfur cycle is another playground where deep-sea microbes take center stage. Many rely on sulfur compounds as energy sources, oxidizing or reducing them in ways that ripple through food webs. Some of these sulfur metabolisms power entire vent communities, providing the chemical foundation for giant tube worms, clams, and other animals. It's a partnership between the microscopic and the macroscopic. A reminder that big life forms only thrive when small ones agree to handle the paperwork. Deep-sea microbial evolution also gets wonderfully weird when you look at their genetic flexibility. These organisms frequently swap genes through horizontal gene transfer, essentially trading useful DNA like baseball cards. One microbe discovers a nifty enzyme that helps it survive heat or pressure, and suddenly its neighbours are asking for copies. Over millions of years, this gene-sharing economy produced metabolic toolkits packed with adaptations for extreme environments. It's evolution by collaboration rather than competition, proving that even microbes understand the power of a good group project. Some deep-sea microbes even use metal as part of their metabolism. There are bacteria that breathe iron, much like we breathe oxygen. Others interact with manganese, altering its chemical form and influencing the mineral composition of the ocean floor. Then there are those that produce magnetite crystals inside their cells, creating internal compasses that help them navigate magnetic fields. These microbes essentially invented GPS before animals even had brains. Perhaps the most astonishing thing about deep-sea microbes is their sheer abundance. While charismatic deep-sea animals capture headlines, the microbial biomass down there dwarfs everything else. They dominate numerically, metabolically, and evolutionarily. They survive when nothing else can. And even though they act in the shadows, their influence extends across the entire globe. Every molecule of methane they consume, every grain of sediment they process, every chemical bond they break or build. These actions contribute quietly to Earth's stability. They are the architects of biogeochemical balance, the custodians of elemental cycles, the silent engineers maintaining the planet's operating system. In the absence of sunlight, in the stillness of crushing depths, these microbes carved out an evolutionary path so unique, so resilient, and so influential that without them, Earth as we know it would falter. They shaped the chemistry of oceans long before animals arrived, and they continue shaping it long after sunlight-dependent ecosystems go to sleep each night. In the deep, they are the ancient ones, small, steady, and indispensable. If you glance at a map of the ocean floor, it looks deceptively smooth, rolling blue emptiness spreading across most of the planet. But hidden beneath that watery surface lies a landscape as complex and dramatic as any mountain range or desert plain on land. Deep trenches slice downward like planetary scars. Seamounts rise from the abyss like submerged skyscrapers. Canyons carve enormous paths through the seafloor, twisting and branching like geological labyrinths. And to the species that call these places home, each of these features becomes an isolated world, a biological island floating in darkness. Isolation is one of evolution's favorite tools. Any time a population is cut off from others of its kind, even slightly, the stage is set for speciation, nature's quiet way of saying, "Let's see what happens when you take the scenic route." On land, islands famously drive the evolution of strange species. Tiny elephants, giant birds, tortoises with personalities far too confident for animals lacking speed. In the deep sea, the same principle applies, but on a scale more dramatic and less visible. Here, the isolation is vast, the boundaries are deep, and the results are often spectacular. Let's start with trenches. Those narrow, impossibly deep chasms where pressure soars, temperatures drop, and the nearest neighbour may be hundreds of kilometres away. Life in a trench experiences unique conditions not found on the surrounding abyssal plains. Pressure increases rapidly with depth, and the walls of the trench create steep environmental gradients. Species that venture downward may cross thresholds that their cousins offshore simply cannot tolerate. This splits populations into distinct groups. Over thousands or millions of years, those groups adapt to their own trench-specific micro-worlds. Eventually, they diverge so completely that even if they could meet again, they'd be strangers, biologically incompatible and following evolutionary scripts written in different languages. Trenches often harbour species found nowhere else on Earth. These organisms evolve peculiar traits: elongated bodies, unusual biochemistry, adaptations suited only for the extreme, compressed space they inhabit. The Mariana Trench alone hosts species so distinct that researchers sometimes debate whether they belong within familiar taxonomic categories at all. Evolution here is a long, quiet process driven by strict boundaries and limited gene flow. A trench population doesn't mix with the next trench over any more than 2 distant islands share their wildlife without a boat. But trenches are only part of the story. Rise up from the cracks of the seafloor and you encounter seamounts, underwater mountains that often never break the surface but create dramatic elevations in an otherwise flat world. These submerged peaks act like isolated plateaus, catching currents and accumulating nutrients. Because they sit as raised oases in the deep sea, they attract life. But only certain species can reach them, and even fewer remain. Over time, seamount communities become genetically distinct, shaped by currents that isolate them just as effectively as the walls of a trench. Animals living on one seamount rarely travel to another because the distances are enormous. The water column between them is effectively a desert, and many deep-sea organisms are simply not built for long-distance commuting. Larvae drifting in currents may reach new habitats occasionally, but chance dispersal is rare enough that each seamount becomes its own evolutionary island, complete with species that diverge from their relatives living just one mountain ridge away. Some seamounts are home to slow-growing corals and sponges, whose populations have remained genetically stable for centuries, while others contain rapidly evolving fish or invertebrates that respond dramatically to the conditions of their isolated homes. Canyons, too, create isolation in their own mysterious ways. These underwater ravines, often carved by ancient currents or turbidity flows, form sheltered environments that differ sharply from the surrounding seafloor. Their twisting structures trap organic matter, create unique flow patterns, and provide protection from large-scale oceanic disturbances. Animals living within them, crustaceans tucked into crevices, fish navigating winding passages, worms embedded in thick sediments, experience a microhabitat that differs so thoroughly from the open slopes outside that the canyon effectively becomes its own world. Species in these canyons often develop specialized feeding strategies or body shapes that reflect the enclosed, maze-like nature of their homes. Over time, those traits become encoded in their genes, and new species emerge. A canyon might sit only a few kilometers away from an open abyssal plain. Yet, its inhabitants evolve on separate trajectories, like neighbors who live close enough to wave from their windows, but never actually visit each other, because the only connecting road washed out several million years ago. What makes deep-sea isolation particularly potent is that these habitats are often both stable and long-lasting. On land, isolation might end with shifting climates, rising seas, or volcanic eruptions. But deep trenches, seamounts, and canyons can persist for millions of years without changing meaningfully. When a habitat remains consistent over geological timescales, evolution has time to explore every possible path. resulting in an extraordinary proliferation of forms. And because migration between these deep-sea islands is so rare, even small genetic mutations can accumulate, creating distinct species with subtle but meaningful differences. It's evolution in slow motion, quiet, patient, and deeply thorough. The deep sea doesn't rush, so the species that inhabit it don't either. Instead, they diverge slowly but steadily, like two rivers parting at a fork and following their own meandering courses forever onward. Isolation also shapes behavior. Some fish develop mating rituals suited only to the acoustics or currents of their specific trench. Certain worms evolve feeding strategies that match the sediment composition of a particular canyon. Even microbial communities diverge, acquiring unique metabolic pathways shaped by the chemistry of their local environment. It's not just anatomy that changes, it's entire lifestyles. What's remarkable is how this patchwork of isolated habitats creates a deep-sea world where diversity flourishes despite the vast emptiness between populations. The planet's largest continuous ecosystem is simultaneously one of its most fragmented. Every trench, every rise, every canyon has the potential to host a world unto itself, an evolutionary island hidden not by distance or geography, but by depth. In the end, the deep sea teaches us that isolation isn't a barrier to life, it's a canvas. And evolution, ever the artist, uses these isolated pockets to paint creatures found nowhere else on Earth. If you want to understand the deep sea, you have to let go of the idea that time works the same everywhere. In shallow waters, life moves fast. Fish dart around like they're late for something. Coral reefs bustle with constant traffic. Plankton bloom, die, and get replaced in cycles so rapid they could practically qualify as biological speedruns. But descend into the abyss, and everything shifts into a different tempo. A slower, quieter, almost meditative rhythm, where growth unfolds over decades. Reproduction happens at glacial pace, and individual lifetimes can stretch longer than entire civilizations. Down here, evolution is not a sprint. It's a patient negotiation between organisms and their environment. Longevity is not just a biological quirk of the deep sea. It's a survival strategy shaped by cold temperatures, scarce resources, and stable conditions that persist for unfathomable spans of time. Life in the abyss is not pressured to grow fast, reproduce quickly, or outcompete neighbors in bursts of frantic activity. Instead, the deep sea rewards endurance, frugality, and incremental progress. Many of its residents simply take their time, because time is the one resource the deep has in generous supply. Take deep-sea corals as an example. These organisms don't build bustling reefs like their tropical relatives, but they do create delicate, branching structures on the seafloor. Structures that grow so slowly you could go away for decades, return, and still wonder if anything changed at all. Some deep-sea coral colonies have been measured at thousands of years old, quietly adding millimeters of skeleton as the centuries tick by. When you're that long-lived, growth doesn't need to be fast. It needs to be steady. The same goes for many deep-sea fish. Some of them, like certain rockfishes, have lifespans that exceed 200 years. Others mature so slowly that they might spend decades in a sort of prolonged adolescence, putting off reproduction until they've put on sufficient size or acquired enough energy reserves. A fish on the continental shelf might race to maturity in a few short years because predators, competition, and environmental swings leave no time to waste. But in the deep, where everything happens at a whisper, becoming an adult can be a multi-decade project. It's like evolution stuck a "please wait" sign on their life cycle, and everyone just politely accepted it. This slow pace extends beyond growth and into the core of deep-sea biology: metabolism. Deep-sea animals burn energy at remarkably low rates. They process nutrients slowly. They digest food slowly. They recover from injury slowly. Even their movements tend to be unhurried, often gliding rather than swimming, drifting rather than darting, with little food available and temperatures cold enough to undermine chemical reactions. Rushing would be wasteful. Every ounce of energy saved is an ounce that can prolong life. And here's where longevity becomes more than just an interesting fact. It fundamentally alters the evolutionary timeline. When organisms live long lives and reproduce infrequently, genetic change accumulates at a different pace than it does in fast-living species. Evolution becomes a long-term strategic game rather than a rapid cascade of generations adapting to constant upheaval. Deep-sea species don't need to respond to seasonal shifts, nor do they face the kind of mass disturbances that characterize many surface ecosystems. Their world is remarkably stable. Temperature, light, and pressure barely fluctuate. And because the environment changes so slowly, the organisms adapted to it follow suit. This stability also means that once a successful adaptation emerges, it can persist for astonishing lengths of time without being replaced. Some deep-sea lineages appear ancient, not because they're primitive, but because their designs have remained effective for millions of years. If your body plan works flawlessly in a quiet, unchanging world, evolution doesn't feel compelled to overhaul it. Why fix what isn't broken, especially when change itself can be risky? Slow growth also shapes patterns of reproduction. Many deep-sea animals invest heavily in producing a small number of offspring. They can't afford to churn out thousands of eggs on a whim, the way some shallow water species do. Instead, they produce fewer, larger eggs with more yolk, giving each offspring a fighting chance in an environment where survival requires luck and grit. Some species brood or guard their young for extended periods, a rare luxury in the deep sea, but one that reflects the high value of each life. When growth is slow and lifespans are long, every individual matters more. Even microbes in the deep sea exhibit this slow lane philosophy. Some sediment-dwelling cells divide so infrequently that if you counted their life events like birthdays, they might only celebrate a handful over centuries. Their metabolisms tick along at a pace that would be considered impossible on the surface. Yet in the deep, where energy is limited and conditions barely shift, this ultra-slow existence becomes the norm. But longevity also comes with evolutionary consequences. When disturbances do occur, such as landslides, climate-driven shifts in currents, or human impacts like deep-sea mining, the organisms that have spent millennia optimizing for stability have little flexibility to adapt quickly. Their slow reproduction rates make recovery difficult. Their long lives, ironically, can make them vulnerable to sudden change. If evolution is a dance, the deep sea has been performing a long, deliberate waltz, and rapid accelerations can throw everything off balance. Still, for most of Earth's history, the deep has remained a sanctuary where slow growth and long life were not liabilities, but advantages. These traits allowed species to weather long-term planetary changes, endure through multiple extinction events, and persist even when surface life struggled. When dinosaurs rose and fell, when ice ages waxed and waned, when continents drifted and climates reorganized, deep-sea organisms carried on with their steady rhythms. Longevity in the deep isn't an afterthought, it's a philosophy. Grow slowly. Spend energy carefully. Adapt at the pace of geological time. In a world defined by stillness and scarcity, life extended itself into the far reaches of possibility, turning patience into power. And deep beneath the waves, evolution continues its slow, steady dance, measured not in generations, but in centuries. For most of Earth's history, the deep sea was the ultimate refuge from whatever chaos played out at the surface. Asteroid strikes, volcanic winters, climate shifts, mass extinctions, while the shallow oceans reeled and land ecosystems scrambled for balance, the deep remained steady, quiet, and largely untouched. That isolation allowed evolution to unfold here with the slow, deliberate pacing you've come to expect from the abyss. But in recent decades, humans have managed to reach even this remote world, not with triumphant exploration alone, but with a cascade of side effects we never meant to send. And the deep sea, patient as it is beginning to respond. The first intruder is one we can't see, but spreads with startling efficiency. Noise. For centuries, the deep ocean existed in near-perfect silence, broken only by faint volcanic rumbles, distant storms, or the low-frequency calls of creatures evolved to use sound as a long-distance communication tool. Now, ships crisscross the world above, industrial vessels hum around the clock, and submarine traffic threads through the deep like unseen highways. Noise travels astonishingly far underwater, and the deep listens, whether it wants to or not. This influx of sound can interfere with communication among deep-living animals, especially those relying on low-frequency pulses to find mates or coordinate migrations. For species accustomed to a hushed environment, new background noise is more than an annoyance. It's a biological obstacle. Imagine trying to whisper to your friend in a library, only to have someone crank up a leaf blower in the hallway. Over many generations, such interference may drive evolutionary changes in communication strategies. Some animals may develop calls at different frequencies, while others might shift toward relying more on chemical or vibrational cues. Evolution tends to respond to pressure, no pun intended, and noise is rapidly becoming a pressure of its own. Then there's the issue of microplastics. These tiny fragments, born from degraded consumer plastics, synthetic clothing fibers, industrial runoff, and whatever escapes the recycling limbo, are everywhere. They drift down from the surface like artificial snowflakes, settling into sediments, dissolving in currents, and embedding themselves in the digestive tracts of animals that never evolved defenses against such things. Microplastics are so widespread that they've been found in some of the deepest parts of the world, including trenches where no human has ever physically set foot. Deep-sea organisms often consume anything that remotely resembles organic material. It's a necessity in a place where food is unpredictable. Their ancient feeding strategies make them particularly vulnerable to swallowing microplastics, which can cause blockages, alter nutrient absorption, or introduce toxic chemicals. Over evolutionary time, this might influence which individuals survive. Creatures with physiological quirks that help them pass or tolerate plastics may outcompete those that cannot. It's unsettling to think of plastic acting as a selective force, but evolution doesn't play favorites. It works with whatever materials the environment provides, even if those materials come from our recycling bins. And microplastics don't just influence individual survival, they alter entire microbial communities in the deep. Plastics can carry surface-dwelling microbes into deep waters, introducing species that would never naturally traverse that distance. Some microbes colonize the plastics themselves, forming unique ecosystems known as plastispheres. These newcomers could mingle with or displace native microbial groups. shifting foundational chemical processes in unpredictable ways. It's like dropping a handful of strangers into a tight-knit village and watching the social dynamics ripple outward. Chemical pollutants take their own toll. Mercury, heavy metals, pesticides, and persistent organic pollutants eventually settle into deep-sea sediments, where they accumulate across generations. Many deep-sea animals live long lives, which means toxins can build up inside them over decades. This prolonged exposure may alter reproductive success, disrupt hormone systems, or influence which traits help individuals endure. Some species may gradually evolve mechanisms to detoxify or tolerate contaminants, while others could vanish entirely, leaving evolutionary gaps that take millennia to refill. Another pressure creeping into the deep is the expanding reach of deep-sea mining. Humans have set their sights on extracting minerals like cobalt, rare earth metals, and manganese nodules that rest quietly on the abyssal plains. These mining operations, still in experimental stages but inching closer to large-scale reality, have the potential to reshape ecosystems that took millions of years to stabilize. Sediment plumes kicked up by machinery could smother filter feeders or clog the delicate apparatuses of animals adapted to crystal-clear darkness. Noise, light, and habitat destruction could exert selective pressures that favor bolder, more tolerant species over the slow-growing, sensitive ones that define much of the deep's biodiversity. Even climate change, though most visibly felt at the surface, pushes its long reach downward. Warming waters alter circulation patterns, potentially changing how oxygen, nutrients, and organic material move through the deep ocean. Some areas may experience subtle warming, forcing organisms to adjust their biochemistry. Others may face declining oxygen levels as warmer surface waters hold less oxygen before descending. Species able to withstand low oxygen might gain an edge, while others may retreat or decline. The deep might not warm dramatically, but even slight shifts matter when evolution has been sculpted for consistency. Then there's the issue of carbon. As the ocean absorbs atmospheric carbon dioxide, it becomes more acidic. This acidification trickles down, affecting deep-sea creatures with calcium carbonate structures, snails, echinoderms, corals. Over evolutionary timescales, acidity could reshape shell thickness, skeletal density, and even reproductive strategies. Species that can maintain their structures in lower pH environments may thrive, potentially outcompeting others in a slow, silent reshuffling of life. But amidst all these pressures, deep-sea life isn't simply a victim. Evolution continues its steady work, nudging species towards survival strategies that meet these new realities. Some microbes break down plastics. Some animals alter feeding habits. Some lineages may radiate into newly created ecological niches, if those niches aren't too damaged by human influence. The tragedy, of course, is that evolutionary adaptation takes time, vast stretches of it. Deep-sea organisms built for millennia-long rhythms may not adapt quickly enough to match the pace of human-caused change. Yet even as pressures mount, life in the deep remains resilient and astonishing. If anything, the fact that it's responding at all reveals how flexible and inventive evolution can be. The deep sea has endured asteroid impacts, ice ages, shifting continents, and mass extinctions. Now it faces challenges from us, unintentional, pervasive, and rapid. How evolution responds to this new era will shape a future we cannot yet see, unfolding slowly, quietly, far below the waves. If you followed this journey into the abyss, through crushing pressure, absolute darkness, chemical kingdoms, magic light displays, ancient microbes, and evolutionary detours that feel like plot twists, you're probably starting to see why the deep sea gives off such a distinctly alien vibe. You don't have to squint to imagine its creatures on distant planets orbiting red dwarf stars or hiding beneath the icy crusts of Europa. The truth is, the deep sea is a kind of alien world, one that formed not by leaving Earth, but by dropping into its most inaccessible corners. And in doing so, life here was sculpted by forces so extreme and unfamiliar that walking through it is like wandering between the pages of a sci-fi novel that also happens to be real. What makes the deep sea so otherworldly isn't just its appearance. It's the combination of pressures, literal and metaphorical, that shaped every living thing to adapt in ways that surface life never needed to consider. The creatures here evolved in a realm where darkness is eternal, food is scarce, landscapes are vast, and the environment barely changes for millions of years. Imagine a world where night never ends, storms never rage, and the temperature is locked near freezing. It's stable in the way a crypt is stable, quiet, steady, but demanding in its own merciless way. This stability, paradoxically, creates wild diversity. With no sunlight guiding evolutionary pathways, life had to improvise. Where shallow water animals leaned on sight, deep sea animals rewrote the script with sensory systems that treat vibrations, chemicals, and electric fields as full languages. Where surface creatures rely on abundant food webs, deep sea dwellers learn to stretch meals, build traps, or create partnerships with microbes to secure energy. Where predators elsewhere perfected speed, deep sea hunters chose silence, patience, and stealth that would shame a ninja. And then there's the chemistry. On the surface, plants and sunlight fuel everything. Down below, vents and seeps feed life with sulfur, methane, and minerals. It's almost poetic. Two separate worlds powered by two separate engines, evolving independently simply because they could. One world glows with the sun, the other glows because it invented its own light. Perhaps that's the heart of it, independence. The deep sea didn't merely tweak surface life strategies. It built its own evolutionary toolkit from scratch using whatever raw materials the abyss provided. In the process, it produced lineages that followed paths so isolated, so ancient, and so specialized that they feel disconnected from the rest of Earth's biosphere. The deep didn't get the sunlight, it didn't get the plants, it didn't get the coral reefs, or the tidal pools, or the warm shallows buzzing with activity. It was left with darkness, pressure, cold, and chemistry, and somehow, incredibly, it made masterpieces out of them. Consider how rarely deep sea species ever interact with surface species. The ocean, despite appearing continuous, is divided by steep gradients of light, temperature, pressure, and food. These gradients act like invisible fences, separating the shallow world from the deep. A fish adapted to warm, bright waters would perish in the cold, crushing depths long before it could explore them. Likewise, deep-sea animals brought to the surface collapse, lose form, or simply shut down, because their bodies are built for a realm that humans can't experience without technology. Two worlds, one planet. Over millions of years, this separation became so complete that the deep sea evolved not just new species, but entirely new solutions to the problem of existing. And because environmental changes down there happen at a pace almost too slow for humans to comprehend, these solutions remained stable for ages, refining themselves rather than reinventing. It's evolution drawn with a fine brush instead of a broad stroke, intricate, patient, and deeply attuned to the rhythms of the abyss. The result? Creatures that look and behave like emissaries from worlds where light is optional, pressure is ordinary, and survival demands creativity, bordering on the surreal. Transparent bodies, lantern organs, mouths shaped like nets, muscles tuned for drifting rather than sprinting, electrical sensors, chemical metabolisms, bodies that fuse during reproduction, species that glow, species that wait, species that stretch, species that shrink. It's a museum of evolutionary what-ifs, all assembled in one place. And as alien as these creatures seem, they're also reminders of what life is capable of when given time, and challenges vastly different from our own. The deep sea shows us that life doesn't need sunlight to thrive. It doesn't need warmth, or speed, or even proximity. It just needs opportunity, an energy source, a little chemistry, and a way to persist. The rest is improvisation. That's why scientists look to the deep sea when imagining life beyond Earth. If complex ecosystems can arise around volcanic chimneys in absolute darkness, why not beneath the crust of an icy moon? If microbes can survive buried miles beneath the seafloor with barely a trickle of energy, why not in the subsurface oceans of another world? The deep sea isn't just alien, it's a proving ground for possibilities. And yet, despite all its strangeness, the abyss remains part of Earth, a vast and ancient chamber where evolutionary stories have played out with quiet intensity. It's easy to forget that the deep sea holds most of the living space our planet offers. It's not a distant outpost. It's the planet's beating, shadowed heart. So why does deep sea life feel extraterrestrial? Because it evolved under rules the rest of life rarely had to follow. Because it split from surface evolution early and walked its own path. Because it mastered environments so extreme they border on unthinkable. And because, in its creativity, it reminds us that life is never limited by our imagination. If the surface world is Earth's familiar story, the deep sea is its hidden chapter, one written in darkness, shaped by pressure, decorated in bioluminescent ink. And reading it is a reminder that our planet still holds wonders vast enough to feel like other worlds, and mysterious enough to leave us humbled, awed, and eager to keep exploring.